You know, when you raise your hand and you make that pledge to your country, you're assuming that they're not going to lead you down a path that's going to be horrible.
When we had gotten out orders for Vietnam, and we were kind of shocked somewhat because we thought we were going to have the easier duty. And I just turned 21 years old in Camp Edwards. And at that time we were told to assemble in this like big hall, and a lieutenant came up there and he says, "I humbly request and say that each and every one of you should get a last will and testament before we deploy." I thought to myself, I just turned 21 years old. I have nothing to give anybody.
When the firing started and we started running to a sandbag bunker, he was shot and killed right in front of me. You read that telegram, sorry to inform you, and we're going to give you so much money to bury your son, and they spell his name wrong. They spell his name wrong. To me, that's just another one of the 58,000 young dead Americans. For what?
I didn't know where Vietnam was until I came home. I really didn't. I didn't know where I was. I guess that's what that terminology is, you know, the world. Everything in Vietnam was in country. Anything outside of Vietnam was the world. We weren't in the world. We were in hell.
Well, as everybody, when they came home, we heard about demonstrations and violence. Didn't know how bad it was. When we landed in San Francisco, we were told to be careful in the airport. Be careful of what? This is the America, isn't it?
The day I got discharged, I got in my uniform, went to LAX, got catcalled, got spit at, and I got on the plane and I took my uniform and I put it in the garbage.
But the only ones that really accepted you were your family. And nor did they talk to us about it. So I can tell you a story real quick, is that my mother, when I first came back from Vietnam, I was laying in bed, my mother touched me when I was sleeping. She said I almost killed her. I just reacted it. I don't remember it, but she reminded me later on about it. I mean, coming back from Vietnam War, they never turned us off. And that's what the psychiatrist even tells me. They wound us up like a clock and never unwound us. We were, I wouldn't say shunned, we were ignored. Nobody wanted to talk to us about it. I tried to join VFWs and things like that, and they said you weren't in a war, they wouldn't let us join. And through my thick-headedness, I did finally get to join one and did what I had to do to get all the way through that, the officers' chairs. But even when I got done being like a commander of a VFW, that particular post shunned me right afterwards and made my whole time very hard to do what I was supposed to do. I did my job well, but once I left, it was over. I never went back because they let me know that we weren't welcome. I missed the camaraderie over there. I missed a lot. But coming back here, my girlfriend at the time was still in college. You weren't socially accepted by anybody. Once they knew you were in the military, they didn't want much to do with us. I mean, even jobs were tough to get. If you were in the military, a lot of them places, they wouldn't tell you outright that they wouldn't hire you. But it went on like that throughout my whole life. I must have went through 15, 20 jobs before I finally found a company that would accept me for who I was and that I could retire from. And the only reason I took that job was for my family, so I could raise them.
Agent Orange, we didn't know what it was. They told us it would only kill vegetation. It would be on our vehicles, just, like look like talcum powder, just brush it off,
until 1992 or so, they didn't recognize Agent Orange. They didn't even recognize it.
But I mean, I never had anything happen to me. But my older boy, Timmy, had 4 kidney transplants. I don't know if I can do this, Tom. I think my exposure to Agent Orange caused his kidney disease. And my little granddaughter, she's 7 now. She was 3 years old, was diagnosed with the same thing.
I have great animosity for the time there. I believe that my son, who's going to be 46 in a couple of weeks, he's handicapped. I believe it's a derivative of my exposure to Agent Orange. I can't prove it, but I have great disdain for being sold down the river.
The psychologist up in the VA at East Orange said it's not my fault. But nobody's going to convince me that. Maybe if I wasn't such a wise ass in high school, maybe I would have went to college. Maybe I wouldn't have Vietnam. Maybe I wouldn't have brought that crap home.
You wouldn't talk about the Vietnam War. You just wanted to blend in, let your hair grow, do whatever you had to do, just move on with your life. And unfortunately, the outcome of that was, through now I found out as PTSD, is I wound up taking up drinking for about 20 years, and pretty much rather excessively. I thought I was just doing it to sleep. I think it was, now I find out more than that afterwards. The VA has been very helpful to me in explaining what was wrong with me. And now I know. It was all due to, as they call, post-traumatic stress. So again, I wasn't looking for anything. I wouldn't use the GI Bill. I wanted nothing to do with the government, absolutely nothing. I wouldn't go to the VA. I didn't think there was anything wrong. I thought it was just me that I couldn't sleep. I didn't have the answers. I couldn't take crowds. I still, to this day, I can't take crowds. And but I learned to deal with it, just walk away. Through the VA, they've went a great way of explaining to us what we need to do to take care of ourselves. And I still go to the VA all the time, and I'm thankful for that now. Looking back on it, I should have went to the VA when I first got out. But again, I wanted nothing from the government. I didn't trust them. I didn't even like voting. I stayed away. So it was easier to fight the war than it was to come home and live your life afterwards.
They just gave everything they had for what the country asked them to do. And they never got the respect that they deserved.
Ours was indeed a noble cause. That's exactly what I would use, that statement right there, which is part of remembrance, because it was a noble cause what we did as individuals, but it wasn't run as an end to anything, and that's the sad part about it.
You think about Vietnam every day. Every day. That doesn't ever go away. It could be anything. It could be me going up the Parkway and seeing the swamp. And I look at that swamp and I see a rice paddy. Automatically. No matter where I go, I'll flash back to Vietnam. Hear a helicopter go by. It may not be a Huey, as we use there, but helicopters bring you right back. It could be anything that'll bring you back to it.
If there was one thing that everybody should know about the Vietnam War, it was wrong. I see nothing good that came out of it.